Well, hello and welcome to T2T Extra. I'm Andy Scott and I am joined by boxer CEO Ben Shalom. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, still. Yeah. Good to have you in.
Good
So,
to see you.
got a couple of topics to put to you before we lose you to Saudi Arabia for Chris Smith
Yeah.
against Gilberto Ramirez. Good news for you today, announcing a new signing in Sam Hickey. So,
Yeah.
he's already had his professional debut on a boxer card. He was a very good amateur, won Commonwealth gold. You presumably liked what you saw
Yeah.
on the Azim Davies undercard and someone you want to work with moving forward?
Yeah, he's someone we've been looking at for a while. And you hear Sam Kinnock, Billy Nelson, the usual suspects in Scotland talking about this kid, and then Rob McCracken, how well he's doing down at GB, then wins the Commonwealth gold medal. And then doesn't get to go to the Olympics through no fault of his own. His category's taken away, and you sat there and you feel sorry for him. And then I spoke to Rob a few times. He's been speaking to our head of boxing, John Wischusen, and he told us this was the one out of everyone coming through out of the Olympics, not out of the Olympics, leaving GB, turning professional. Sam Hickey is the one, and we wanted to see him first. Sometimes you can be a fantastic amateur and not quite translate.
Yeah.
And
We said that in the podcast. It's quite a nice way of working.
Yeah.
Come and have a go. Come and have a look.
Yeah.
If everybody likes what they see, we could do something moving forward. So
Yeah, and I think, look, we've definitely look back and look at signings we've made, and you've always got the gold medalists and the silver medalists, and they come with a huge ticket and a huge price, but then it's those diamonds in the rough, and Sam strikes the balance of both. He's extremely decorated amateur, but also has sort of gone under the radar. For me, I'm almost selfishly glad he didn't go to the Olympics. I think he was destined to medal. I think you look at his record, I think he beat Lewis Richardson, who was the only medalist at the Olympic Games. So, yeah, unbelievably delighted, because you've got a 24-year-old there that for me suits the professional sport, even in his personality, even in the way he fights, and even how he approaches life. He's got an old head on young shoulders, and couldn't be more delighted to have him.
I'm smiling because they can be rare, the old head on young shoulders. What about going back up to Scotland eventually? So those Scottish crowds are incredible. They are really incredible. And think of Josh Taylor at the Hydro, and Ricky Burns and Alex Arthur crowds, and can go back further to Scott Harrison, etc. Eventually, I'm not saying now, but eventually, would you like to get him back into back in Scotland? I mean, I wonder even if you could got a few, if you adopt Bacoli as a Scotsman as well, you have got Scottish talent in the stable there, so you could go back sooner rather than later. But is that one of the things you agreed with him? Look, whenever it comes, we all want to go back up.
Yeah, I have to be honest. If you remember when we did Taylor Cattrall, that was actually my first experience of boxing in Scotland. And obviously, I'd grown up around the Manchester crowds, Ricky Hatton and Anthony Croller in particular, where I'd go a lot, and I just thought it couldn't be beaten. And going up there for that night was special. I always thought how amazing it would be to find a star. But, there are some... you've got Luke Bibby, I think, and Sean Lazzarini up in Scotland as well. A few amateur names coming through, but this was the one. And you're always on the lookout, but you have to have the right talent, the right age, the right personality, the right trainer, the right team. And I think Sam Hickey ticks all the boxes. And so, the long-term plan is to get back up to Scotland and build the next star, build the next one to fill out that Hydro Arena.
Well, I'm sure you'll love to hear that. That's good news for Scottish boxing fans. Couple of updates from the injury table. We had Fraser on Sports News last week, so I think you and I shared some emotions of that. It was quite distressing, wasn't it, Saudi? And I'm neutral, but when you see someone that you work quite closely with potentially suffering an injury like that, I think we were all quite distressed with what we saw. He's made no secret, though. He can come back bigger and better. He's on the road to recovery, wants to box again. You'll sit down with him. Does any of that surprise you?
No, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, just because, look, he's an experienced guy and he's had ups and downs throughout his career. But I think that was, as you said, it was a shocking moment for us all. I think in my experience, as always, I've been so caught up in the winning and losing.
You never stop to think.
You never think that can happen. And now, since then, every fight I watch, every fight I see, that's on my mind the most, and it is amazing how even just that can change everything. But he's come back and responded really well. Obviously got operated on out in Saudi Arabia, and that was unbelievable. But he's back, and gutted, devastated, but motivated, and it's brilliant to see. And you can see him already out and about. And I think we're talking March and April now for a return.
Do you think that's realistic? Because when you have a shocking looking injury like that, you think, God, that's going to keep him out for a long time. But I think the recovery, because he didn't need screws and plates, actually it's quite a straightforward, quick recovery. So is March, April genuinely realistic? And if so, at what sort of level?
I think he has to come back at British level. I don't think it was the level. I think it was the concentration and getting hit with a big punch. Yeah, it was when the injury happened, I thought that's a serious 12, 18 months. They had the brain scan. Thank God there was no problems there. But yeah, the way they operated him was special. They didn't need plates. They didn't need screws, as you said. I think they went in through his mouth.
Yeah. So I spoke to Dr. Neil Scott from who's a Chief Medical Officer of the British Border Control, and he was like, as solid and as scary as it looks, you can go in and it pops back out into place. You can pop it back out into place and it'll fuse naturally. And that blew my mind, actually, but it was a big relief to hear it. And obviously, I think it's 6 to 8 weeks rehab, and then he can go again. And that's, I mean, fair play to him.
It's not just the physical effects, is it? It's the psychological effects.
But he was very quick to rubbish that last week. He was like, I suppose fighters are different to you and I. In that although he said it could never happen to him, it has happened to him, and he's probably at peace with it already.
Yeah.
When you think of that mix of Jamie TKV, Johnny Fisher, David Adelaide, Sol Dakers, is that realistic to jump back in at that sort of level?
I believe so. I don't think he'll accept anything less. He knows where he's at. We know where he got to. He proved his level in the first fight, and he got taken out in the first round. That can happen to anyone. But look, he's someone that will learn from that, and he's someone that will demand a big fight. And obviously, Jamie TKB is up in that mix as well. But that English-British level is where he's got to come back in and make a statement, and then get back in the big time. Because he'll be gutted, because he'll feel on a different night. He beats Fabio Wardley, but that's heavyweight boxing, and he switched off and he got punished.
That Saudi night had its ups and downs, didn't it? Another sort of tough night was in Team Ben Whittaker.
Yeah.
What's the update with him? So what can you tell us that will move the story on with Whittaker?
Look, I can tell you that the rematch is front and centre of the mind of Team Whittaker. I think, first and foremost, because of the neck injury and because it kept him out so long last time, there is precaution that we have to take over there. He will have to do some rehab. But again, talking about March, April back for him, I'd like to headline in Wolverhampton. That was the original plan. That was what we were looking at for September last year. So, look, it was a difficult night, and I think in those moments, it's all right, people telling you things, and in life, I think sometimes you have to experience lows. And he's had such a meteoric rise, and been given everything in a way that he's deserved on a plate. Big sponsorship deals, commercial brands flying at him, money that no fighter,
hundreds of millions of social media hits,
and money that no fighter at that stage of their career usually ever sees. And I'm not making excuses for him, but that can, that's a lot to take in for any young man. And, I think from that experience, you can learn a hell of a lot. And through experience is how you learn. And he's had because of the attention, because of the scrutiny, because of the interest in his career, he's had a seriously, a serious moment in his career that had a big impact and was seen all around the world. And that takes big shoulders, and that takes a man to go back and work out what's gone wrong. And so as his promoter, I think I'm going to look back on and be glad of this experience, because it's not often you can have an experience like this to prepare you for what it's like when you get to that world level. And yeah, fingers crossed for me. He's got to look at his team. He's got to look at having world-class people around him as a world-class talent. And it gives him now an opportunity to prove people wrong, which he loves to do. And
just one more on that, because I'm not trying to trip you up, but a lot of people will hear what you just said there, which is the focus is the neck injury, but obviously what ruled him out on the night was the foot injury.
Yeah.
So, but the neck injury is more serious, is the more concerning of the two, because obviously, you're not an idiot here. Yeah. You know that Team Cameron, they didn't believe the foot injury, but the neck injury, which is a previous, that was ironically what happened in the first Saudi fight that he had. It's the neck injury that is of concern that's going to keep him out.
No, it's look, you recover from a sprained ankle. It's not a dangerous place necessarily to get an injury because it's a historic place that has caused us trouble in the past, and because of where it is, you're always going to have to take precaution around an area like that. It's not going to keep him out long. As I said, we're already looking at March or April for a big homecoming in the Midlands, but for me, this is a period of time to use to soul search, to go back to the drawing board, to realise that. You've done a lot of. Most boxers would dream of having the following that has, dream of having the intention. He's got that for the rest of his career. He's always going to have that. Every time he walks in the ring, everyone's going to be watching. Every time he does anything, the boxing world is going to watch. He's now got to focus on what happens inside the ropes. The work is done outside of it. Focus on what happens inside. Get the right team around you, and make sure you don't look back on your career with any regrets. And as I say, I really believe I'll look back on this moment as and be grateful for it, and I think it can be the making of it.
We've got about 90 seconds, 2 minutes before I've got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Chris Eubank Jr. So there was certainly, I don't want to say miscommunication, but there were certainly differing versions of stories. So the Sky Sports website ran quite a big story, didn't they? That you had re-entered negotiations even at a very basic level with Canelo, and then Eddie Reynoso has come out and said. Not true, and that Eubank is not ever going to be in our plans.
I saw that.
Where have we gone wrong?
I saw that, and I had a lot of my mates messaging me. I was in Puerto Rico, I think, and
at the convention.
At the convention, and I was like, "What?" I'm looking through my phone, like, "Am I going mad?" I've obviously been talking to his lawyer, Greg Smith, who we were always talking to about that fight. And we spoke since the Zarameta fight. So I think it perhaps a communication issue on their side. And for me, I still believe the fight can happen. I still believe the fight will happen. I don't think it was ever going to be next because Canelo traditionally fights in May and September, and we want to see Chris out in February and March. But I was surprised. I was surprised to see that. But I think it's a communication their side because we've spoken, and as I said at the time, I think I saw it blow up, and as everything does with Canelo, we have had small conversations and reached back out, and that's all it was.
There you go. Well, I'm sure this interview is going to make it 10 times worse. But there you go. Thank you for joining us because we've got to shoot. That was T2T Extra. Good luck in Saudi next week for Chris Billam-Smith. Looking forward to it. A chance to become unified champion against Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. That's all we've got time for. So keep it loyal, keep it toe-to-toe, and we'll see you next week.
Keep it loyal. Is that the...
You've got to freestyle these things, mate. But no, there are other podcasts available, but don't listen to them.